When is an acre of land not an acre of land? Stay tuned and I'll explain myself. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. I'm standing on my fence line because I want to illustrate the topic on what we're going to be discussing today, and that is how do you determine how much acreage you have in the property that you purchased. In my case, I purchased 5.10 acres of property from the county. At least that's what it says on the deed. But is 5.10 acres really what's here? Yes, it is. And no, it is not. There's a difference. Land is calculated as if it were flat, a flat surface. So a true acre measures an area within any given point or any given line at 43,560 square feet. Now, this post right here is marked with a 0 because that is the starting point of measurement, and at the base of that pole is where the main sectional marker is. That marker is the marker of the grid plats on all maps for mapping out the area. Yes, it is on the top of the mountain. So this is the beginning of my property on this fence line that runs 1,036 feet down. Now, I did not put this fence up. This fence was put up, I believe, by the county surveyors. They surveyed it, and the guy had a team come out who lived the next door and had the fence put in. I'm standing on the apex of the mountain behind my house. My house sits about 1,800 feet elevation, and right here in this spot it's 2,000 foot elevation, to give you an idea on the uneven terrain that we have here in the Pacific West. The back fence line's right here, and that back fence line measures 288 feet exactly by measure of a 100-foot tape measure from the main corner mark to the next corner mark. When I put my fencing in, I wanted to be sure that all my fencing was on or inside my property line a little bit. There is a fence line 12 feet beyond here, and that fence line I found out was actually inaccurate. That fence line is 12 feet into the next door neighbor's property, so he literally owns right up to my fence line. My fence line lays about 2 to 4 inches inside my property, so I have a little bit of a buffer. But that's his property, and that fence sets well on his property line. Now, this post right here is my corner post on the northwest corner of my property, and the corner mark is right down here at the base of the pole. This 4x4 post is actually the northeast corner of the farm. I have it marked with an 8 because it is approximately 800 feet, this fence line here, going back to the back corner mark of this property. The other corner mark for this fence post is sitting right here. While constructing the fence line all around the perimeter of the property, I placed one of these 4x4 pressure treated posts, one every 100 feet in even intervals around the property. I also had placed these T-posts one every 10 feet between each 100 feet of fencing. Though this is not a corner pin, it is a reference point of which I put my fence up. That pin also references the boundary on which the county road's right-of-way exists across the front of my property. Calculating from this corner point right here by my driveway, coming into the property from this south fence line, bordering across the frontage of the road, just on the edge of the right-of-way. It borders, and the front fence line measures 380 feet. Now I had to determine what the right-of-way was for the county road. Right-of-ways vary depending on where the county roads are located. I called the county and they had determined that the right-of-way, the width of this road right-of-way is 30 feet. So we're measuring 15 feet from the center line of the road out. So the county listed this property at 5.10 acres, and I wanted to calculate, as far as the fence line goes, exactly how much acreage do I really have, given the fact that it is uneven ground. So I thought that simply calculating the distance of the fence itself would give me the amount of square footage I have in this area by adding 1,036 feet to 288 feet to 791 feet and 380 feet, totaling the sum together, dividing it by 4, and taking that amount and multiplying it by itself to give me the square footage, dividing that by the amount of square footage in an acre, which is 34,560. If I do it that way, I come up with just a little under 10 acres. But that was the incorrect way, as one of my viewers had pointed out. So I looked at my map to see exactly what shape my property was, and I had to calculate it as a trapezoidal shape. So for me to calculate as a trapezoidal shape, I took A fence line to B fence line, which I use as the A in the base, and then I measured the height distance of the shortest fence, which is my north fence, and then I calculated it to come up with the area, and it comes up with 6 acres. I even used the measuring tool on Google Maps, and it came up with a little bit different measurement, as accurately as I could pinpoint my measuring tool to the Google Maps. It came up to a little bit over 6 acres. And then, in addition to that, using an online calculator for measuring areas for acreage specifically, depending on your shape and size of your fence, it came up with a different number. So acreage is different based upon the shape of your land. If you buy 5 acres, is it necessarily 5 acres? It depends on the shape of your land. It also depends on if your land's flat or if your land is mountainous. I have mountainous land living here in the Pacific Northwest Cascade Ranges, so therefore I'm going to have a little bit more surface area of land, as opposed to somebody living in like Nebraska or Kansas, where it's relatively flat. You're going to have more of a little bit more accurate count of what your acreage is. So even accounting for calculation of how much fencing you're going to need for property, or how much property so much fencing is going to enclose, it does differ. Say if you buy 1,000 feet of fencing, depending on the shape of your property, that fence is going to enclose varying amounts of acreage. So this video is more about me trying to figure out how much acreage I really had. I knew I'd bought 5.10 acres. I wasn't sure if there was more because of the mountains. I was curious, so I started measuring. And using the wrong calculations, I come up with the wrong answer of 9.7 acres, which is just under 10 acres. So with one of my viewers pointing out that I couldn't use that method for calculating this particular outcome, I ended up researching it and finding out what I really needed to do to come up with a more accurate account. And even the trapezoidal measurement is not totally accurate, because as you can see, my land has a lot of dips and valleys. I was looking for the amount of surface land I have, because that's more important to me than is if it was flat, because all my land is uneven. I got dips, valleys, gullies, mountains, you name it. So why did I even bother measuring the land and trying to figure out how much land I have? I don't know, it just gave me something to do on my day off. So that's the mystery of, is an acre really an acre? Well, it depends on where you live. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen, here at Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this little tutorial on discovering how many acres I really have of surface land. We'll see you guys again in more videos. Bye-bye.